everyone, it's Miss Abdelkader again, and we are on day 2. Today we're going to be talking about making inferences with visual information in nonfiction text. I'm so excited to see you all again today. Let's go ahead and get started. So you guys know before we can start our lesson that we have to go over our learning target. So today's learning target is, today I will analyze the visual information and text features in informational text to make inferences and draw conclusions on explicit and implied information. So just like how we did on day 1, we're going to go over some things together, and then at the end of our video, I'm going to show you how to do your independent practice activity on your own to review what we learned today. But first, let's review some key concepts. Yesterday, we talked about the word infer being a root word in the word inference. So, what does the word infer mean? If you said read between the lines, then you are absolutely correct. Let's look at the next question. What is an inference? Yesterday, we talked about the two most important things that help us make inferences. You're absolutely correct. An inference is when you use text evidence and your background knowledge to draw conclusions about the text. Good job. Let's look at the next question. All right, so yesterday we talked about two types of information that you're going to see in fiction and nonfiction text. It was explicit and implied information. Based off of this definition, which one does this definition refer to? Information that is clearly stated. Is it explicit or implied information? If you said explicit, then you're absolutely correct. Good job. Last one. Information that is not directly stated. Which word does this definition represent? Explicit or implied information? If you said implied, you are correct. Good job, guys. Let me know that you guys really remember what we learned yesterday. Let's go ahead and move forward to today's lesson. So remember, today our focus is on text features and visual information. Text features help the reader understand the information being presented in a nonfiction text, as well as support the main idea, keywords, and concepts important to the text. Examples of text features include headings and subheadings, bullet points, bold or color print. Visual text features allow the reader to make inferences and draw conclusions about explicit information presented, such as photographs, diagrams, maps, charts, labels, and graphs. So let's take a closer look at a nonfiction text and see what we can imply or make inferences about based off of their nonfiction text features. So I'm going to do what I like to call kind of like a think aloud. And with a think aloud, I am going to share my thoughts with you as I am taking in the article and analyzing it with my own thinking. So when I first look at this article, the first thing that catches my attention is the photograph. I notice that I see two students. They both seem to have on two different shirts that represent one the Bears and the other one the Eagles. And they're on computers in a gym with a scoreboard behind them and a referee. It's almost like they're playing a game similar to basketball, or they're competing in the same form as we would watch basketball games. So this makes me infer, based off of those connections and the evidence in the picture, that this article is going to talk a lot about how video gaming is so popular and it should be treated like a sport. So now I need to take a step back and think about, what can I infer from the graph? And is the information explicit or implied? So when looking at the graph, I see on the left-hand side all the sports: NFL, esports, MLB, NBA, NHL, and MLS. Then at the bottom, I see the number of US viewers in millions. Having not read the article, knowing that this has to do about video gaming and some type of connection that they're going to try to make between video games and sports, I'm going to assume that the information in this chart has to probably do with just first how popular certain sports are, and based off of the amount of views, which one would most likely be used as a video gaming sport. So from the information that I can guess from the graphs that I'm looking at, I can pretty much infer that football has the most views than any other sport and is the sport that Americans prefer to watch. And if I had to take my inference a little bit further, I would assume that they're probably going to try to make football a video gaming sport or talk about how it already is a video gaming sport. Does this make sense to you all? Let's try it some more with some guidance from you guys. So here we are. We have another article. This article doesn't have a photograph, doesn't have a title, but it does have an infograph. And I want to give you guys 1 minute to look at the information in this infograph and think about this question. What can you infer from the infograph in the article? And is the information explicit or implied? Okay, so make sure you look at the infograph. We're only focusing in that circle, and you have 1 minute. Go ahead and begin. All right, let's see what you guys found. I'm going to first review the infograph with you all. So this infograph talks about phone usage by the numbers. The first box says the average teen smartphone use per day is 4 hours and 38 minutes. The next one says average number of texts that a teen sends per day is 55. And then 50% of teens who feel addicted to their phones, there's a 50% percentage of teens who feel addicted to their phones. So, what did you infer? Based off of my inferences, I pretty much thought this. I inferred that teens spend too much time on their phones and that the information presented is implied because I had to look at the evidence in this text feature, the 4 hours and 38 minutes, the 55 average number of texts, and the 50% of teens who are addicted to their phones. And then I had to step back and make connections with what I was reading. I spent a lot of time on my phone, and I spent a lot of time on my phone when I was a teenager, probably averaging about these same amount of numbers. And I know a lot of my peers did the same, and a lot of my students, you all, may have done the same as well. And so when I take that evidence from this text feature and think about my connections to it, my inference leads me to believe that yes, teens spend too much time on their phones. And so like we talked about earlier in day one, when you use evidence from the text, and that could be a nonfiction text feature or a written printed text, and you connect your background knowledge, you are always going to have to make an inference. Good job. All right, y'all. It seems like we've come to another close to our day. But remember, I'm going to take some time and go over your activity that you're going to work on your own. So please stick with me for a couple more minutes. Your independent activity today is going to be done through a Google Slides presentation. So when you get to your activity page, it will look something like this. It'll say day 2 and it'll say let's practice. It'll bring you to an activity that's called day 2 independent practice. And your first screen will say let's practice. You want to make sure that you press the present button so that you'll get this screen. There will be directions for you on how you would do this activity. The directions tell you to look closely at the visual text features highlighted on each slide, analyze the information presented, and make an inference according to how it relates to the topic, and then determine if the information presented is explicit or implied. For this activity, you'll just need your mind and the information that we have learned from day 1 about inferences. There will be no paper or pencils needed. You'll be able to check your answers as you're going along with confirmation from some of the suggested answers that I have provided for you. And that's all there is to it, you guys. I hope you have fun doing your activity and that you have gotten some valuable information on how to look at nonfiction visual text features to make inferences. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow on day 3 as we continue our lesson on nonfiction text features. See you guys tomorrow.